All right, hello, welcome back to the basement. This is Jeremiah Wolf, and I am wearing a stained T-shirt today. I think it's stained. It might be water. I did just get out of the shower. So today, someone contacted me and asked about work-life balance while you're studying, and this is something we all struggle with. So I thought I'd share a little bit about how I approach that. Maybe it'll help you out, maybe not. Before I get into that, though, this just reminded me the state of my shirt. So many years ago, all right, a young Jeremiah got married way too young. I was very religious. I had kind of some messed up ideas about how the world worked, and I was married at 20 years old to my high school sweetheart. Although it was, anyway, we're not going to get too much into it. But it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, but I am partially colorblind. Now, I remember two events where this partial color blindness has really affected me. One, I was at a client site one time. They had this little box, I don't something to do with storage. I forget what it was, and it would the lights would either be yellow or green. And they were like, "Oh, there, it went yellow again. What's going on?" And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? The light didn't change at all." I couldn't tell the difference. They never changed to me, and so I've encountered that throughout my career. It's very rare, but if the colors are too similar, I can't tell the difference. But anyway, so a young me, I'm married, and my wife and I were getting ready to go out somewhere, go do something. I don't know, and she says to me, "You're not going to wear that shirt, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah. What's wrong with my shirt?" She says, "There's a huge stain on it." I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing on my shirt." And we're going back and forth. She thinks I'm mocking her, and I think she's calling me an idiot. And so we're getting snippy with each other. It turns out there was this massive stain on my shirt. I simply could not see it. It was just light enough that she could see it, but to me, I could not distinguish between the color of the shirt and the fact that it was stained. To me, it looked perfectly clean, looked perfectly normal. So, anyway, that's all from the stain thing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about work-life balance while studying. Look, this is a real challenge for a lot of us, and one thing, the way I want to approach this, I'm going to give you a little bit of tough talk first, and then we'll get into some actual tips. And as far as tough talk, the first thing is, listen, you need to understand if you have a career in IT, if you want to be successful and have a long-term career in IT, you better get used to this because you're never going to stop studying. Especially in networking, the technology is always changing. I say especially in networking, but what area is not constantly changing? I don't know how certifications play a role in programming or maybe I know there's a lot of cloud certifications nowadays and server certs. So I don't know. I have friends who are very successful as both programmers and server guys with no certs. Most of the networking people I know absolutely have certs, and it's a huge part of their career. So I'm not sure if that's a fair representation. But if you're in networking, be prepared to always be studying. You're going to always be studying. If I look back at my career between Microsoft and Cisco, I think I averaged a test about every 3 or 4 months. So, and when I'm not like in hardcore mode, that's about what I spend on an exam is about 3 months per exam. So I was basically always studying. There'd be periods where I wouldn't be. Usually when I was first started dating somebody, I would after I got divorced and then started dating, I would, during those periods, I probably wouldn't study because I wanted to devote all my attention to her. But you know how it is. So that's the first thing. A little bit of a hard thing. You're going to have to figure this out because it's something you're probably always going to be doing. And even if it's not Cisco, I'm working for my CCIE right now. And you better believe as soon as I'm done with that CCIE, I'm going right into the next thing, whether that's a second CCIE or I'm also looking at going back to school and getting a degree. I found an online program in cybersecurity, which I'm looking at. So I don't know. I got some different options. I also might look at doing some Juniper certs or some Palo Alto certs. I don't know. Like for me, certification has always been what's fueled my career. So for me, it's something I'm always going to be doing as long as I'm in IT. Okay, so that's point one. The second point, so a little bit of real talk here, gentlemen. According to YouTube, 100% of the people who view my channel so far anyway are men. And in my career in IT, I've known plenty of women who work in IT, programmers, mostly, definitely in sales, of course. A couple in networking, but overwhelmingly just men. So I'm gonna talk to you as if we're all men here, and if you're not, I apologize, but that's why I'm gonna do it. Here's the thing, gentlemen. We have been done a disservice, if you'll excuse me, over the past few decades, starting I think really in the 80s and definitely into the 90s for sure. There was this kind of period in psychology and family therapy where the idea was that women are right and men are wrong. And the way that women approach the world, the way that women approach family is right, and the way that men approach the world and approach family is wrong. And a lot of us, people like me, grew up in that world where we were told, no, you got to be more like a woman. You got to be more like a woman. Well, it didn't work. In fact, it's hurt society in measurable ways. Men and women are different. Neither is right. Neither is wrong. We're simply different. It's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a really good thing. We can play off those differences to make a stronger whole. So, why do I mention this? Well, I'm speaking in very general terms. Please try not to be offended. Speaking in very general terms, generally, women are more strongly motivated by relationships. What drives women in their life oftentimes is relationships. Now, this is often happening on a subconscious level. I spent the last 7 years being a professional subconscious coach. I am balls deep in the subconscious mind, and understanding it is so vital to understanding so many aspects of our lives and why things are the way they are when they don't make sense. But from a subconscious point of view, and often even consciously, the primary driving force for women is those social interactions, relationships. That's not true for men. The primary driving force for men is accomplishments. The ability to ultimately, it has to do with the ability to attract a mate and to provide for that mate. So this is kind of what drives us as a man. We want to achieve, we want to earn, we want to be able to accomplish things and then use those accomplishments to either attract a mate or to provide for our family. So when we are working hard, when we're sitting there with our nose in the book, studying, when we are sacrificing our friends and our hobbies, we're doing it from a place of trying to is that a word? Trying to improve ourselves so that we can improve the life of those around us. That's how we approach the world. We're doing it for our family. However, our partner often doesn't see it that way, or sometimes she will in the short term, but it's really hard for her to maintain that attitude in the long term because what she sees in her mind, what is more important than having connections, than having relationships, and you're off there, in your study, in your basement, at the kitchen table studying instead of spending time with her or the family, and that becomes very hurtful for her, and it's illogical to her because in her mind, even though on some level she knows you're doing it to improve your career and hopefully make more money or whatever it is that's going to benefit the family, she knows that logically, but instinctually it's not how she would approach the world. And let's be honest, that's how we all view things. When people do things different than how we would do it, we tend to take offense, sometimes even get angry about it. So it's important to understand that your partner's perspective is going to be different than yours. And we have to set expectations. We have to keep that in mind before we let it get out of hand and those differences of thought and approach become resentment. Because she might start to resent you because you're spending all your time studying. she might even begin to think, well, that's just what he wants to do. That's just a hobby for him. He likes computers. He likes networking. This is just all fun for him. And, there might be an aspect of it. Hopefully you enjoy your job. And you're going to start to resent her, thinking, I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to spend all my free time studying, racking my brain, feeling like I'm a freaking zombie half the time. Of course I want to spend time with the family. I'm doing this for you. Why don't you understand that? So we have to cut that off before that resentment starts to build. I took some notes, or I wrote some notes, rather, about to keep my thoughts in line, because I tend to ramble, like I'm doing right now. Okay, so those are the two kind of tough talk things. One, this is something that's always going to be present in your career, so be prepared for it and deal with it. And two, we have to be aware of how we as men, and again I'm speaking primarily to men, how we approach things differently than our partners, and how that can lead to resentment. So what do you do about it? Well, the first thing we need to do is set expectations. One, we need to set expectations for ourselves, and two, we need to help set expectations for our partner. So how do we set expectations for ourselves? Well, we need to be realistic. You know better than anybody. Get rid of that. Oop, wrong one. There we go. You know better than anyone what your capabilities are. You know how much time you can study. You know roughly how long it's going to take for you to achieve this exam. If you've done any exams in the past. If this is your first one, you don't know, then, plan on at least several months. So, okay, I was not prepared. Be prepared. The Boy Scout motto. Okay. What is going on? All right, I'm having problems with my pen, so forget it. Okay, so first thing is set expectations. Sorry about all that. Set expectations for yourself. Understand what it's going to take. And here's one of the key things. You need to set proper expectations about how much you can actually study. You're going to hit a point where you simply can't study anymore, and you're going to start to become an asshole because your brain's going to be tired. We'll get to that more in a second. But set these proper expectations so that you know that this is going to be difficult, it's going to take time, and it's going to help you to be in a better place emotionally and mentally because you have proper expectations. And, a great way to do that is to get out there, watch videos like, people like me or other people who have, and they're all over YouTube. You certainly don't have to watch just mine. There's tons of people out there who are taking these exams and they make videos and they share their experience. So it's going to help you get an understanding of how long, it's going to take you, what's going to be involved for you. Now, when it comes to setting expectations for your partner, this is the kind of the critical part, and this can be very difficult. Your partner needs to understand what we talked about a few minutes ago, that her priorities and your priorities are different. Rather, that's not true. The priorities, which is maintaining and supporting the family, are the same. How we get there is different. The woman does it through building relationships. You do it through providing for the family. They're both vitally important. Vitally important. Her role is no less important than your role. Without her supporting the family, how can you focus all your time on studying and providing? And without you focusing on studying and providing, how are you going to improve the life of the family? Now, this is a very simplistic term. I recognize nowadays almost all women work, and usually it's an equal partnership. And so, look, things get really complicated in today's modern world. Unfortunately, the brain, it hasn't caught up to today's modern world. Our motivations and expectations and how we think about things, those subconscious processes, they're all still living in the Stone Age, right? Even though we live in a modern world. So we have to understand how we think so that we can use our big prefrontal cortex to, as much as possible, override those animal instincts that make us so different. So you need your partner to understand, listen, this is how you are going to provide for the family. This is how you're trying to make things better. And if you can set those expectations, then she's going to be a little more understanding about your time. Also, if you have set expectations for yourself, then you're going to be able to know how much time it takes. You're going to be able to divvy out the workload so that you're not overwhelming yourself, so that you can continue to be a decent partner. The other aspect about setting expectations for your partner is, listen, she needs to understand that if her needs are not being met, She must speak up. This is always true. This is one of the biggest problems that relationships in general have, is when we as partners, men or women, refuse to speak up about our needs. And I'm not trying to get all family therapy on you here, but that is just a core component to a successful relationship. And if you are going to be studying, especially if you're really into it and you're spending a lot of free time on it, working and studying, your partner she has to be willing to step up and say, look, Jeremiah, you've been studying a lot, and I need to spend some time with you. I need to go out and have some fun, and whatever it is, she needs to be willing to speak up. But she also needs to be willing to understand that there are more goals than just than only hers, and that's just reality, right? So that's about setting expectations. The other thing is you need to be able to pay attention to your mind and your body. Studying can wear you out quick. If you're spending 3 or 4 hours a day, or even 2 hours a day, in addition to working full time, in addition to your commute, you with your nose in a book or watching some video or working some labs, your brain is going to be tired, and you are going to be not the best version of yourself. So one, you've already segregated yourself from your partner or your family more than they're used to. And then now when you are together, you're tired, you're grumpy, you're a bit of an asshole. So you have to pay attention to yourself and recognize, look, I can only study 2 hours a day, or an hour and a half, or an hour a day before I just start to become too much of a jerk, and that's not fair to my family. So I was hoping to get this test done in 3 months, but you know what? I have to be fair to my family. I have to be a good partner. I have to be a good father. So it's going to take me 6 months. That's just the way it's going to be. So I have that time. So you have to listen to yourself, your mind and your body, and act accordingly so that you can maintain to be a good partner. And the final thing is, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to the stability of the family unit, whether it's just you and your partner or whether it's you and your partner and children, routine is vitally important. We're mammals, right? We are animals. And if you look at the entire animal kingdom, with the rare exception of human beings, everything operates in a routine. They get up roughly the same time. They do the same activities. Everything is in a routine. And when it comes to soothing those primitive parts of our brain, both with your partner and your children, they need to feel safe. They need to feel secure. They need to feel like things are okay. And if routine is broken too often or too drastically, that starts to create a level of anxiety. And that anxiety is going to help feed those resentments that we talked about first off. So it's important to maintain as much as possible routine. So let me give you a couple of examples. Now, I am very blessed in this way. My wife is a very accomplished woman. So she kind of on a level more than any other woman I've ever been with, either my first wife or any of the women that I had serious relationships until I met my current wife. She understands career. She's worked very hard to build her career. It's one of the reasons we're having our first child in our mid-40s. So, she gets career. She's also a person who she has an advanced degree from an Ivy League school, right? She has advanced certifications. She's a Six Sigma black belt. She got a certification a couple years ago in copy editing just for fun. So she understands studying. She understands that sort of thing. She understands career. So I'm kind of blessed in that way. But at the same time, it's still been a bit of a struggle just these past few months with me studying. So one of the things that we do to maintain that sense of routine is almost every single morning. There's probably been a couple days we've missed, but almost every single morning when we get up, or rather when she gets up, I get up very early. I tend to get up somewhere between 4:30 and 5:30 and start my day. She normally gets up around 6:30, or even sometimes it's late, 6:37ish, something like that. So I've already kind of been going for a while, but when she gets up, we sit down and we talk for usually about a half hour. And we just talk about, how we slept, if we had any crazy dreams. We talk about the news. We talk about politics. We talk about what's coming up for the day or for the week. We talk about, things we want to get done around the house. So we have that every morning. We always start our day with that connection. So first thing we're doing in the morning is reaffirming, hey, you're important to me. I'm going to sit here and I want to listen to you and I want to share my thoughts with you and I want you to share your thoughts with me. We do that very first thing in the morning. So even if the rest of the day gets crazy, we started off on that right, on that right foot. We started off saying, "Hey, good morning. I love you. Let's talk for a little bit." And then go about our crazy day. She's a professional. She works a lot too. So sometimes, and she also travels for work. So sometimes we can go a week or even two without seeing each other. So not with the crazy pandemic lately, but yeah. So we need to create that routine. So if it's just that every morning you take a few minutes, if it's maybe every evening you make sure that you have dinner with family, with the family. I don't know what it is for you, but listen, those are the things. So that's my tips. One, understanding that there are differences between men and women, what motivates us. Be aware of that, talk through that, set the proper expectations around that so that you and your partner are both on board, understanding each other. Be willing to talk about your needs so the other partner, you and your partner are both on board, you're understanding each other. You're going to head that resentment, that potential resentment off right at the beginning. Keep in mind that this is something that's going to stick with you. I will say that my career played a big role in the demise of my first marriage. I used to travel a lot for work. When I was home, I was studying, and my wife absolutely felt neglected. And a lot of that was my fault. These are lessons that I had to learn the hard way. Interesting, though, little kind of twist of fate is I'm still friends with my first wife. In fact, very good friends with my first wife. And her career really exploded. And now she's constantly traveling and away from her husband. And it's kind of like the reverse of what we had when we were together. So she's kind of got a little bit of been forced to kind of see my perspective from things. That's just an interesting turn of events. So yeah, again, make sure you and your spouse really need to be willing to speak up. You got to set expectations for yourself. You got to pay attention to your mind and your body so that you're only doing what you can reasonably do without getting too tired and too grumpy and becoming that asshole that's going to cause problems. And then routine, even if it's only something small, make sure to set aside some time every day to connect with your family. 30 minutes a day to connect with your family is not going to make or break your IT career. So do it. All right. That's my thoughts on how to find some level of work-life balance. I hope it helps you out.